Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and get started a couple seconds early. Call the meeting to order. I'd like to invite David Ingram, Pathways pastor, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and say the night's prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. God, tonight we're grateful for the city of Garden that we have to live in. Grateful for this great community that you've provided. Thankful for the leadership, Lord. You said in your word that you're the one that sets up the authority and the powers that are over us, and so we're grateful for those that are here today. And God, I pray a special blessing of protection. I pray for wisdom for the men and women who oversee all of the projects, all of the events, and all the things that are going on in our community. Lord, we look forward to a bright future as families and individuals are moving to our community. We pray that you would continue to provide protection, that you continue to provide the resources that we would need to be able to welcome those individuals, those families. These houses are being built all around us, Lord. I pray that you would help us continue to think through and with wisdom how best to provide and protect and care for them. Lord, once again, grateful for this city. I pray blessing over this meeting and the ones even to come. Lord, I pray for good judgment, and I pray for strength and wisdom for the leaders in this room. Grateful for the opportunity tonight to meet. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Item C, approval of tonight's agenda. Entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Bruce made the motion to approve it. Do I have a second? Multiple seconds. So Keaton seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item D, just for clarification, this is a normal citizen comment period. Tonight we've got item 3 on new business, which is a public comment period as it relates to the single hauler trash service. So if you have other things that you want to visit with us about, this is an opportunity to come visit. You can save your remarks for the item C, or you can for 3, or you can come up visit now. It's not a dialogue. It's not a dialogue. It's just your opportunity to share your thoughts and things with us. So I'll open citizen comments and see if anyone wants to come forward now or wants to wait. So, yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Linda Giesman. I live at 201 North Pine. And I just want to, I made an observation, and I have heard rumor about it. So down near the walking path at Linear Park, there appears to be a little bridge sitting over there. And the rumor I have heard is that it is going to be placed over that little ditch there to make access to the walking path more accessible. And as a resident who lives just down the street from that, I want to say thank you. Because going down the ditch and up the ditch, I'm not as young as I used to be, but I still like to walk. And it makes it much easier for me to be able to go down there and to access the walking path now, not have to take a long way around. Not that I don't need that, but you know, it makes it easier to do that, and when I get tired, then I get home faster. And I just want to say thank you for whoever's idea that was, whoever recommended it, and for your action to see it through. It's a minor thing for many people, but for me, I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone Anyone else?
My name is Ward Hilliard. I'm here to give some comments on the trash service that you're thinking about having. I'm curious about how big these trash bins are going to be. Are they going to be normal size like the ones we have now? Or are they going to be small little ones?
You know, like I said, we're not wanting to turn this into a dialogue, so I'll say probably we'll be discussing that, you know, and maybe some of the representatives from those other services. My guess would be to be the same, but I just don't want to sit here and have a dialogue for 3 minutes with you, not to be rude or anything. But,
Okay.
and I'd be happy to talk with you afterwards too, or any of us or Craig.
Can I just say what I'm curious about?
Sure, yeah, that's fine, that'd be fine.
I'm just
Go
gonna
ahead.
Go down the
Yeah,
list.
go down the list, that's
Make
great.
notes.
Just
Okay.
so, I know you kind of look at me like, would you answer me please? I'm not trying to be
No,
rude.
I
so.
understand.
Okay, I
I
appreciate
just
it.
want to give you my thoughts.
Sure, that's great.
Okay, I'm curious how big the bins are gonna be for the trash service. Are they gonna be little bitty ones, big ones, or, you know? I know they're gonna cut the cost of the trash service to some unbelievable cutting. I'm curious what that's gonna be, the cost of these new trash service. And if I wanna get a dumpster, do I have to go through the same company that you all picked for the city of Goddard, or can I go and get my own dumpster through my own trash service? Are we isolated to one trash service in the town? How much of Goddard is going to be covered with this idea of one trash service? Is it just the city of Goddard? Is it all the duplexes going up around town? Or what is your visual idea of this idea of one trash service? And I'm also curious if, when is it going to start? When do you plan on starting this new trash service idea? And if I'm getting rumors through the grapevine and Goddard that if I have a trash service problem, I have to call the city of Goddard. I can't call the trash company that you decided to go through. And I'm wondering if Goddard has enough people, or are we going to have to hire another person to take the complaints of the trash service? And if you don't, and I call in and I say, is Patty here? I got a complaint. No, Patty's not here right now. Well, can I talk? I'm supposed to call City of Goddard. I'm not supposed to call the trash service. Patty's busy. Patty don't have time to talk to you, Ward. Call back another day. I mean, are we going to have to deal with that? That's the kind of questions
Sure.
that I have.
Good question.
So I'm just wondering if, you know, yeah, we're going to save a little bit of money on the trash service, but is Goddard going to have to hire another person just to take the complaint? And when I call my I love my trash company that I have. When I call in, they say, "What's the problem, Ward?" I say this, they take care of it, or I say, "I got a question." I ask it, I get an answer. I don't have to wait a week. You know, Betty, or she's gonna have to call trash company. Trash company's gonna have to get back to Betty. Betty's gonna have to get back to Ward. And I'm just I wanna give you my opinion on that.
Appreciate it.
So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
What was your first name again, sir?
Warren,
Warren?
Warren.
W-A-R-D. W-A-R-D.
Got it.
I got one other. If I'm thinking, I've got 7 trash cans in one location that I pay trash for the people. And I hate to have to get to a trash bin, a dumpster, because I like to have the trash individually to the people so they can dump their trash at the front door or back door. And this new idea, I don't know what's going to happen for people like me that have 7 trash cans, or 10 or 13 trash cans in one location. Am I going to get a discount, or since
That's just the 3
Oh,
timer.
okay. I mean, that's the question I have.
That's, so noted, appreciate it.
So when do I come back for the answers?
Mr. Hilliard, city staff, we've got your contact. We'll reach out to you and have a conversation with you. I think a lot of your questions will be answered when we discuss this agenda item here in a few minutes.
Ah, okay, thank you.
You bet, sir. Thanks, Mark. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I got a long last name. John Hornberger, 220 South Elm Street. Okay, it's a comment section of the program only, so no answers to any comments or questions. But can you tell us when we will be able to get answers to the questions that we have? Is that going to be at a meeting in March, April?
Mr. Mayor, could I interject?
Sure. Go ahead.
So, to everyone in the audience, we're going to get to this period in the agenda in a few minutes. Lots of the questions you have are going to be answered. Then we'll open up the public comment period, so any of the questions you have that haven't already been answered by staff's presentation, you'll be able to provide comment on, and we will be sharing all that information out with you. We already shared a lot of answers to most of the stuff on our website. We'll make sure we continue to push that out so you guys have an access point. Please call City Hall and we'll share a dialogue with you too, but we're going to make all this available to the broader public. It already is. We'll direct you to it as well. So.
And I think in a previous meeting, there was kind of a whole schedule, and Brian will probably go over that.
Yes.
It's the process that we're going through, so this has all been lined out. It's just like everything else, you don't know what you don't know until you see it. So I understand and appreciate that, but we're not making any decisions tonight. We're gathering data and information.
Then I will make one comment and I'll be done. It seems to me like Goddard's trying to be an HOA, taking our right of choice away. I have a problem with that, not knowing all the particulars and all the specifics. What's the thinking and the reasoning behind the city wanting to even consider this? So with that, I'll say good evening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, if you just want to remind the audience, this is general citizens' comments unrelated to the trash discussion. We'll be having that in a few minutes. So anything unrelated to that, this is the time to share.
We kind of get a momentum. Somebody goes up, and it's kind of like the first one goes up is usually the hardest person to kind of break the ice. But
my name is Michael Whitaker. I live at 1609 North Clear Lane in Spring Hill Edition. I was just wondering if there's continued activity regarding the traffic, regarding all the two-lane roads we're stuck with. 167, 183rd, 199, Maple. I mean, we're kind of all boxed in. I didn't know if there's continued studies being made to make anything more than 2 lanes.
I'll just answer that and say yes.
Okay.
And we do have some studies.
I'm not saying it.
We're looking at a lot of things,
Right.
yes. But there's actually been some trans systems provided with some data and studies, so yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Simple question. I'll try not to run on here. Anyone else want to speak about anything besides trash service? If not, we'll close citizen comments and
Can anything be done about the traffic light at 199?
Can you come up here to the microphone so that way everybody can hear you?
I want to do it from here.
okay.
It's for the folks watching at home too,
I
so
mean,
they can hear what you're saying.
The traffic light used to be you could get 4, 5, or 6 cars through. Now you can't get 3 cars through the traffic light at 199th and Keller. And that changed just within the last month. Somehow, I don't know if KDOT did it or city requested KDOT to change it, because I assume KDOT has control of the timing of the traffic lights. But somehow that light timing sequence has gotten screwed up, so you can't get 3 cars through that light when it changes green for the north-south traffic. And,
So noted. We visit with KDOT on a regular basis. We have a quarterly meetings, and that's just an ongoing issue. And I think I'd even mentioned something to Craig about that. I'd even sit there and have to wait to get through the light as a fourth vehicle. So we're working on those. It's an ongoing process. Someday when we get turn lanes for left, right, center, the traffic will move better going across. But anyone else? So we can move on. I will close citizen comments. So close. Next item. Conflicts of interest. At this time, I'd like to give a council an opportunity to declare any conflicts they might have in communication or discussions that might influence their ability to consider tonight's agenda impartially. That's no, we're all good. Moving on with that, appointments and recognitions, nominations. We've got some appointments to discuss here. City Administrator Craig Crossett is coming to bat.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. It's my pleasure to work through these appointments with you. I'm without a clicker, so I got an assist coming back there. This first one is the Regional Economic Area Partnership. This is a group comprised of elected officials and chief executive officers and administrative roles within municipalities in South Central Kansas. We come together and we work on issues that impact the region. We meet once a month. The previous year, Mayor Lieb had served as the primary representative for this association. Staff is open to Mayor Lieb continuing that capacity, of course. And if we want to have an alternate, so there could be someone else to stand in his place when he's unable to go, that'd be great. I try to go to every one of these that I can as well, so we're most typically represented well. If you could advance slides to the recommendation. So we can skip all the way to the bottom if we kind of know what we want to do, or we can open up the floor. Thank you. Up to you, Mr. Mayor.
I'd be willing to do it again. If you guys, unless one of you wants to jump up and do it, but during the day, you guys will. It's going to be the secondary.
I agree with you, retired mayor.
Heavy emphasis on the word retired. Just tired. In case I'm not available, move back up again, or let someone else. You going to be available? Yeah, how could you find me unavailable? Yeah, I'll back up. We have this time.
Yep, just a motion to make those appointments is all we need.
I make a motion to appoint Mayor Lieb to serve as the primary and Councilmember Fish to serve as secondary representatives of the city at REAP-related meetings and activities.
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next appointment.
All right, this one is the Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. So in areas where there is a metro region larger than 50,000 population, it's actually a requirement, it's a law that you have an MPO. Ours is called Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. The one up in Kansas City is called MARC. Similar functions. Essentially, there are federal dollars that are passed through to the state and then to municipalities for projects that serve the mission. You can see the critical links there. In order to take advantage of that funding, we need to be present and engaging at the WAMPO meetings. You can see there's 22 cities and 3 counties in our WAMPO region, so lots of competition for those funds. The transportation policy body, every member city has a board seat, quote unquote, to serve on that. And then I also serve as a board person on their technical advisory committee. So we get to have 2 representatives there, which can be a bit advantageous. They meet the second Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. at the Ronald Reagan Building downtown. I think it's on the second floor there. And the annual membership fee is $481.97. There was a annual membership fee with REAP 2 in the previous. Hopefully you guys saw that in your agenda packet because I kind of skipped through it. Here is the recommendation. So this previous year, Mayor Lieb served in the role. I can't remember if we had an alternate. We never had one attend. So whatever you guys would like to do, we'll be glad to get this appointment made for this year. So.
I might be able to be in the secondary. You're the primary. Unless
Cool.
I stay.
Doesn't matter to me. George is gonna be there.
Right.
It'll be good. Make a motion to appoint Mayor Lee to serve as primary and City Councilmember Hall to serve as secondary representatives of the city at WAMCO TEB related meetings and activities. Second.
We have a motion, a second. Keith made the motion. I'll make the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3.
All right, this one is the Sedgwick County Association of Cities, also known as SCAC. They meet, I want to say, 4 times a year on the second Saturday of odd number months, 8:30 to 10 a.m. And this is another opportunity for regional collaboration amongst elected officials within the municipalities in Sedgwick County. So we hosted one time this year at Tanganyika. It's been in Keachai, a couple other places this last year. I believe that Councilwoman Hall has been our primary representative to SCAC. And so we're going to carry forward that way this year, or if others would like to be a part, of course, staff is welcome to whatever direction council would like to move. So same process as the last 2 here.
We're good to do it.
Back to that. Make a motion on
Yep, that'll make a motion to appoint City Council Member Hall to serve as a primary and City Councilman Fish to serve as a secondary representative for the city at SCAC related meetings and activities. Second.
it. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4. City County Advisory Board. Did you guys took that off? You took that off? Okay. Well, I guess we don't have a number 4. If you want to see after the meeting, there is a number 4 on my sheet. I'm not totally crazy. Just average. Okay, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Keith's made the motion to approve this consent agenda. Krista seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, unfinished business. Okay.
Mayor and City Council, this is H1 Pro Code Compliance Agreement. So the city presented the possibility of contracting with Pro Code Compliance for code compliance services on January 21st of 2025. The agenda was presented and after some consideration was tabled for further review on February 3rd. And today, the City Council requested additional information staff compiled this report, which is being presented in analysis below. We do have a representative of Pro Code Compliance here as well, Jim in the back. So if you guys have any questions during this presentation, feel free to interrupt, ask any questions related to it at any time. So my answers are in purple related to questions that were asked at the previous meeting. So if you feel like something's missing, just feel free to ask any questions. City Council is reviewing the possibility of contracting with Pro Code Compliance for code enforcement services. And one of the questions asked at the previous meeting, are there any other companies that provide a similar service that the City Council can compare to PCC? So there was some additional research to continue to indicate that there are no other companies in our region that provide the service. Staff was able to identify 2 out-of-state companies located in Colorado as nearest similar companies. So there was nobody locally. There were other companies that could potentially serve for code compliance services around Kansas, but they wanted some agreements between the city and other cities to try to make a market for them, and so that was just not a possibility for immediate service. What is the current process and how would this new process deviate or stay the same from the current process? So I've outlined it all here. Basically, the current process involves the city staff receiving a complaint from a neighbor or witnessing a code violation. City staff will investigate and document violation. The letter is sent to the property owner by certified mail. Failure to comply with the time frame of receiving the letter or once the letter is sent triggers the city remediating the property with a contractor. Individuals under the current code have the right to dispute violation before the council. If a property owner is a habitual violator of city code, each violation is considered a separate and distinct violation. If the city has to remediate the code violation, we send the property owner the bill. If they fail to fill the bill within 30 days, the lien will be placed on the property. The new process functions in a similar way with some exceptions. The contractor would survey the community, drive around looking for code violations, and would send the letters and complete the follow-ups with offenders. Code disputes or hearings or appeals would happen in municipal courts instead of before the city council, and currently the city only spends a few hours a month on code enforcement, including surveying and driving around looking for violations, where PCC would spend around 85 hours per month surveying Goddard for code violations and processing them. So it's generally the same. It would just be substituting city staff for borough code compliance, and instead of going before city council for disputes, it would go to municipal court. Can the police department function as code enforcement? So the police officers are bound by law and certain restrictions that don't apply to the code enforcement officer. A code enforcement officer could function under the police department, but not as a police officer. So there are some very clear delineating distinctions that have to be made between a police officer and a code enforcement officer. So an officer that's sworn in as a police officer could not function as a code enforcement officer, but a code enforcement officer could function under the purview of the police department, but not as a police officer. So there would have to be some distinction there. Are most of the areas needing code enforcement Old Goddard, since the newer areas have HOAs? So yes, most of the time code enforcement issues are concentrated in Old Goddard, and new quotes here, which is what I call traditional Goddard, or the nexus of where Goddard was growing. And see attached map. However, this doesn't mean other areas of Goddard don't have code violations that the city must respond to. So you'll see in your agenda packet that I gave you for the map with a heat density that shows how many code violations there were in specific areas and where it's concentrated. So obviously there could be code violations that the city distinguishes as a code violation that HOA may not distinguish as a code violation. So there has to be that distinction there. For example, the city is not going to send you a letter for failure to paint your house, but we would send you a letter if you have a junk motor vehicle or something of that nature in your backyard, or if you have brush piles, which maybe the HOA would or would not distinguish as a code violation, but the city would, and then we would send you a letter and we would act accordingly. So that is not unique or exclusive of Old Goddard. That's something that we've dealt with across the city, regardless of the location. What about commercial properties and commercial violations? So PCC has stated that only review residential violations, as such, the city will continue to intervene for commercial and industrial properties. But if they see something, they say, hey, this is a commercial thing, we can obviously go out and investigate. How is the money collected and how is it expensed to the municipal court? So when an individual goes to municipal court, I was having a list, I can't remember this together. So say our charge court cost of $90 plus state fees of $23.50. This will be added to whatever fines are charged against them in regard to a particular violation. So the $23.50 and the $90, you have to pay that, and then anything on top of that. This process would be the same with the code violation fee. It was grass, junk motor vehicle, blight, etc. So $90 plus $23.50 plus whatever code violation fee is related to that code violation. So if it's grass or junk motor vehicle or dilapidation or blight or anything else would go on top of the $90 plus $23.50. An individual is allowed to pay the fee directly or a payment plan where they can pay over the phone or in person. Fines collected from municipal court are allocated to court and police revenue line item within the general fund and expenses to the law enforcement cost center within the general fund. 7. Has the city reviewed the references to PCC? So we have city staff called Peabody, Tawana, and Howard to check the quality of service provided by PPC. Peabody spoke to PCC and said that they were forthcoming with information and communicating frequently with the city. Tawana stated that they have contracted with PCC for about 6 months now. They view them favorably with no current issues. And Howard, Kansas said that has been a positive experience and that had been around for about 6 months. They used an application for joint communication between the city and PCC. And so nobody spoke ill of them as of yet. How many code violations have come before the City Council for review? So city staff reviewed the code cases for the last 6 years and determined there were 7 distinct cases that made it to City Council. Most cases are remediated prior to coming before City Council. So the vast majority of code violations are not surprising. It's going to be grass. So most people, when they get a letter, they're like, yep, probably should have pulled out my lawnmower. They'll fix it long before it comes to City Council. So these ones are distinct. People wanted to dispute them. They felt maybe it was unfavorable. Maybe the code was being interpreted wrong. And so they brought it before City Council. So these ones are distinct. They may have come multiple times, but it was the same case. Unfit habitation, 1529 East Summerwood Court. That was December 7th of 2020. Unfit blighted property, 401 North Cedar Street, March 15, 2021. AC unit junk metal blight for 411 North Craig Street, May 16, 2022. Brush pile, 520 North Goddard Road, June 20th of 2022. Vending machine for 222 North Main, August 15th. Multiple blighted properties on Main Street, June 5th of 2023. Tall grass and weeds behind lock gate for 21006 East St. Andrew Court on October 16th of 2023. So financially, compensation, PCC will be compensated at a rate of $3,500 per month, inclusive of general expenses, as well as $196 to be paid monthly to cover the requested liability insurance policy. Additional requirements: if postage expenses exceed $25 per month, the city will reimburse those costs based on documentation. Invoicing, PCC will invoice monthly, covering services for the upcoming month and any approved reimbursements for the prior month. These expenses will be allocated to the general fund, code enforcement, other professional services, 10580, 6365. So a legal is put as a form, and you've seen this before, as outlined by the city attorney. And like I said, we do have pro code here at this point. If you want to come up and address city council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Rob Lane. I'm one of the two owners of Professional Code Compliance. I've only got maybe one tweak to the announcement or to the presentation that was just made. It's accurate as far as what we've said with regard to residential properties. However, your code is written as such that we can enforce additional properties in addition to residential. Frankly, we just haven't. Kind of under the theory of commercial properties, you don't take care of your stuff, you don't have a business, and so it kind of takes care of itself. But it's not something that's off the table by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, code enforcement, regardless of the property, frankly, in our experience. So that's the only tweak. I think that was number 5 that was up there. With that being said, I apologize, I was not here 2 weeks ago. My partner was. I'm here this evening. If you've got questions about me or any further questions you have with regard to professional code compliance, I'm happy to answer them. I can give you a general background of kind of what we're about. If you want it again, I think you got some of it. I've been a city attorney, frankly, for 20 years. I can't hardly believe that, in some capacity or another. I've done city attorney work for the cities of Leon, Peabody, El Dorado, Andover, Towanda, Benton in my career. I if I said Peabody, I didn't mean to leave them out. I'm currently only doing city attorney work for the cities of Towanda and Benton. I do city prosecutor work for those 2 cities, as well as the city of El Dorado and the city of Andover. So I've got a decent amount of experience with regard to code compliance. The fact of the matter is, the towns that I'm the city attorney for, probably obviously smaller than Goddard, but probably run into some of the same problems, which is it's difficult. Code enforcement is not necessarily an attractive gig. It's certainly not attractive on a full-time basis. It's certainly hard to fill the position. If you're going to fill the position as something less than part-time, then that person's wearing a lot of different hats. Maybe they're not always the best qualified to do that. So, frankly, I'm trying to fill a niche, potentially, with regard to that. I will tell you, 7 violations that have made it to the city council over the last 5 years. Congratulations. That's an extremely low number in my experience. But I think you know and I know that your city's growing. I'm sure that's what you want. I hope it's not true, but you've got to, it's something you want to stay on top of. Code enforcement, in my experience, is always the 20th most important thing on any council's agenda. There's always more important stuff. Trash, roads, schools, name 20 things. They're all going to come up before code enforcement. There's nothing wrong with that. Those are all more immediate. This is certainly a preventative medicine type of concept, as far as kind of staying on top of things and taking care of things as they go before you turn around, you look around and say, wow, our city's 100 years old and we don't have any new houses. They all look bad. Or everybody's lawn looks bad. And trust me when I tell you, that happens. So that's the impetus, I guess, behind the idea, the service. That's the 10-cent tour.
Appreciate the 10-cent tour. Thank you. Any additional questions or previous meeting or any new thoughts?
I could definitely see a need. Like you said, we're a growing community, so this is a necessity. I think in the past, Micah felt kind of under your umbrella, right? And so we're talking about and we're saying 85 hours a month, is that what this contract is about?
Yes, sir.
And so, if you think about that, it's adding, if it's still on Micah's responsibility, still, that's 20 hours a week of overtime to allocate to that deal. You know, so I think for, is there a possible way we can do this under a trial period, possibly?
Councilman Collins, our city attorney can fill the gaps here if I miss anything, but you know, there's a 90-day written notice if you guys feel like you weren't happy with the service. So I think in some ways that allows for a trial period.
I mean, the only commitment for either party is effectively 90 days. You gotta give them 90-day notice and either party can terminate the agreement. So.
Fair enough. Any further?
I guess my only thing was, how much code enforcement can you do when it's 12 inches of snow and it's, you know, snow in people's yards and grass doesn't grow, you know? In the
lot.
wintertime. It just seems like an awful lot of money, $3,500 a month.
Certainly a very valid point. Not gonna lie to you, code enforcement is more hot and heavy in the summer, no pun intended. And it tends to slow during, you know, December, January kind of stuff. That's not to say that there's no code enforcement that occurs. Obviously you're still gonna have, hopefully not, but you're still gonna have to check on inoperable vehicles, dilapidated housing. There's a lot of different code out there. I don't know, truly standing here, what kind of code enforcement you've been able to do to this point, or whether you're seeing that or not. So I can't speak to that. But certainly I would say that there's no way that I can make a statement that the same amount of ability to code enforce is the same in January as it is in July. It's not. You're 100% correct. But frankly, just from a business standpoint, especially if for a 90-day termination, which I would say is an inherent trial period, we have to be able to plan for labor and expenses ourselves too. So as far as a as-needed basis, it's not a business model that will work for us, if that's what you're possibly thinking.
And how many's understaffed? How many will be involved in, you know, assuming that you just, you guys come and just
Yeah, good question.
take routes to the city, and we're just looking for things that are
Sure.
need to be in compliance?
So very good question. So again, full transparency, apologies. Been an attorney for 23 years, so ethically I'm transparent. This is a very lean and mean operation, and by that I mean this. The person that's involved with contract talks and contract formation, as well as speaking law to city prosecutors or city attorneys, is me. The person that's quote unquote boots on the ground out in the field is my partner. We have one staff person that primarily conducts our communications. We use an app called Company Cam that I brought from my commercial construction company, frankly, that we feel is a very good communication tool as far as pictures of violations, communication with regard to the violation, the dates, they're automatically dated. It doesn't take up room on your phone. You don't need to know all that, but basically it's an attractive app. It's affordable, it's attractive. In my experience as a city attorney, when I'm prosecuting, for lack of a better phrase, code enforcement cases, all I really want to know when I'm looking at 30 cases on that docket is, when did we see the violation? What's the picture of the violation? What communication have we had with the citizen? What efforts, if any, have been made to remedy the violation? And if we're at trial, then all of those will fail. And so when I'm presenting those exhibits as evidence to a city court, I have to have my ducks in a row with regard to that. So frankly, Company Cam and that app is for those purposes. It's geared mostly towards city prosecutors / governing body for you guys to have that information at your fingertips relatively quickly. And to be in a summary form with photos. And so he's the person, my partner, boots on the ground person. We've got 8 customers right now, clients, excuse me for falling on that term. If you are number 9, we're gonna have to bring somebody on to primarily concentrate on some of those 8, because my partner's the more experienced boots on the ground person, and you guys are a big enough get, again, transparency, that he would be that person. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes, sir. Company vehicles, are they marked? Are they?
Yeah, so another good question.
Do they have a logo?
Right now, again, apologies. I grew up in small business, so I'm kind of a believer in not necessarily getting stuff until you can afford to pay for it without financing it. I actually own one of the buildings on Industrial Road here in Goddard. My cousin owns the McDonald's here in town. So just the way I was raised. Apologies in advance. So the direct answer to your question is, don't have a company vehicle presently. Not something that I'm going to finance.
You do have logos on your vehicles, correct?
Correct.
There you go.
But it's a personal vehicle. Again, transparency.
Well, the HOA vehicles driving around their targets.
Sure. Hey,
We wouldn't.
we're that number just went up on our.
It wouldn't be an issue of us receiving calls of suspicious vehicles driving around. They're going to have identification,
Right.
so they'll be easily identifiable.
Identification, attire, vests, etc. Not gonna lie though, again, code enforcement's not fun. It's not everybody's, it's not an attractive gig. And so, yeah, there is the potential for confrontation that we try to avoid. But sometimes, everyone's home is their castle. You learn that in first year law school, and this is no exception.
So bigger picture, if they pursue something need enforcement, right? Do you go to represent on the litigation side when it goes to court, or is there something calls?
Absolutely not. I do not represent the city of Goddard.
Grant Brazil and our municipal prosecution.
Okay. Yeah.
If there's a question between Mr. Brazil and code enforcement of, hey, this is what I'm looking for, then the interpreter is me. Can I answer your question?
Yep.
And you'll report directly to
Micah.
Micah.
And the report directly to person, point of contact for the city is in our contract. One of the benefits, frankly, again, even of a community of this size, is there's a little insulation there. We've got a third-party entity that's performing this. Not only a little insulation, but maybe the better word is it's a little bit of distance / the good word's not indifference, but it's not, hey, you made fun of my mailbox 5 years ago, and so now I'm going to report you to the council, because we're not here, we're not residents, and that happens.
Impartiality.
Yeah, that's a better word.
You got a cousin McDonald's and you have so partially your residence.
Partially I'm a resident?
Yeah.
My
You
partner.
have business? Sure. You have your business, right?
No.
You own a building?
I own a building, yes.
Okay, well, that's,
I'm a landlord in Goddard, yes.
okay, well. I mean, I consider myself a Wichita. I own a building in Wichita, Washington.
But you're not a Wichita resident, right?
No.
Okay.
You barely got it.
Okay, what do you guys want to do?
I've been speaking already, so I think for the investment, that's the biggest thing. I mean, what's the biggest bang for our buck? All right, so we're a growing community. It's a necessity. You can't get by without it. I think for cost effectiveness, $3,500 a month. To me it balances out. Versus paying overtime, having shorter staff, the people actually do the level of enforcement that we need here, and somebody dedicated to that commitment. I'm willing to give it a try.
Is that a motion?
Should we amend that and put I guess it's already written in, right?
It's written in, so.
Any other discussion, you guys?
So, you guys have, I would assume, a copy of our code?
Yes. I think it's available.
Yeah, well,
One of the things
that rewriting it.
One of the things that we're certainly that's in our scope is to be familiar with the code. Number one. Ancillary to that is that city attorney has spoken to us from the beginning as far as, hey, we're going to be adjusting it, so we're going to be working with him and his office with regard to that on the fly. So as it's tweaked, adjusted, etc., we're going to be involved to whatever level you want us involved at that point as well. No, that's a long answer.
Those code changes will have to be authorized by you guys as
Yes.
well.
I want to make sure that if we've got somebody contracted out doing this stuff, that they know their stuff. They know exactly what our code says. So.
Certainly, that's certainly within our purview to know exactly what the code says. By and large, most of my experience with regard to communities that I've been involved with, 90% of everybody's code is exactly the same. there's 10% that you have to make sure that you find is different, and that's because governing bodies tweak it from time to time. Certainly your prerogative, but by and large, 90% of the codes are the same statewide.
Any more questions? What's your pleasure?
Well, I make a motion to move to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with the PCC as seen in attached exhibit A.
Always made the motion. And second. I'll second. We'll do a roll call vote on this so we can just get it in the record.
Councilmember Hall? I'm gonna say no. Councilmember Fish?
Of course I feel second. No.
Mayor Lee?
I'm going to say yes.
Councilmember Curler?
No.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Is it possible to table it? I've just got.
I'm-
Is that an option? I feel bad kicking you guys back and forth, but
You guys can do whatever you want, but.
No, I mean, that's why, I mean,
I just.
feel free to speak. I mean, that's what this is.
For the record, motion denied 3-2.
Yeah.
So the record.
Well, yeah, the motion to move to execute. Can we not make another motion to table this for later?
You can do whatever you want.
It's over.
It's definitely something that's allowed, right?
Consult with your city attorney.
Is that allowed?
back on the agenda at the next meeting,
Is there anything further we need to review on that? Guess what are your questions?
Well, I think at this point, since we've turned it down, we can get back together, Craig can visit individually and determine whether questions, things, you guys have some more time to think about it.
Fair enough.
And if we decide to put it back on the agenda, that'll be his recommendation, and we'll move on with the meeting, so. Try not to make this meeting run.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it.
You guys have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On to new business. Fourth quarter financials. CFO Brooke Carroll, good evening. This guy should adjust that microphone for you.
Testing.
There you go. We're good.
All right, so we are going to talk about the 2024 fourth quarter financial report. It's kind of our highlight of 2024 and where we landed at the end of the year. And it's going to also give you a comparison of kind of where we compared from last year to the prior year. So tonight we'll talk about the general fund overview, our special revenue and enterprise funds, capital improvement and reserve funds, our treasury update. You'll also see the quarter 4 treasurer's report, a report on our change in fund balance, kind of some things we're working on right now, and then if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And you can ask questions as we go through this as well. So the purpose of this report, it hasn't changed a whole lot since the last time I presented it. I'm trying to present it in a format where you all become more familiar with it, and so you see it on and on and on. It seems very familiar, and also for the public too. So if they're looking at this, we're not constantly changing it. We may be adding some things if we need to, but just so it's very transparent and easily to understand. So the very first topic we'll go through is our general fund overview, and this is just everything that relates to the general fund. This is a summary of our general fund revenue for the whole year, and you can see in the blue column there, that's our current year information. The green column is last year's information, and the pink column is the change from this year to last year. If you look down through that, you can see that most of our revenues just kind of lined up right where we expected them to be. Everything was really pretty spot on, especially our comp use tax, our franchise taxes, our property taxes, sales tax. Really some of the things that were kind of stood out just a little bit more was our miscellaneous income and our interest income. You can see that our miscellaneous income was very high there at $290,000. A good portion of that is because of the new 5% admin fee we charge to our tip notes that we finance. So when those end up going to permanent financing, we get an administrative fee that goes back to the general fund. Also, our interest income was up substantially just due to rates. So you can see we earned about $400,000 in the general fund for interest. To be transparent and to let you know, in 2025 we will be reallocating the interest income differently. We will be allocating the interest that comes in proportionately to all fund balances. So you'll start to see that allocated just a bit differently. Any questions on revenue? These items here are our top 5 revenue sources. And you can see that property taxes is our highest revenue source, followed by sales tax, comp use tax, franchise, and then again our interest income was pretty substantial. Now we talk about our expenditures, and our expenditures, we ended up with only spending 66% of our total budgeted funds in the general fund. Now our general fund is made up of all these different categories. You can see we have our general government, law enforcement, recreation, community and economic development. We have a line item for capital outlay. So all of these items here make up the general fund. And if you start looking at some overages and so on, we did go over budget in several of those departmental funds, but as a collective whole, we were under budget by 66, or we only spent 66% of our budget. Some of the reasons that we were over budget in some of these categories were because of salaries and benefits kind of were a little higher than we expected. Our legal fees, contracted services, and some software costs also kind of contribute to some of those costs. We were able to make 100% of our transfers at year end, which is very important. So if we were not at that 66, if we were over that 66%, got closer to a 90 or something like that, we probably wouldn't be able to make those transfers at year end because those transfers go against our budget authority. But we were able to do that. We still had enough budget authority to do so we were able to make our transfers to special highway, our equipment reserve, capital improvement fund, and special parks. Any questions on that? So here are our top 5 expenditure categories for the general fund, and so court and police got the first place trophy of spending the most money. Just kidding.
Well spent.
I'm not kidding. It's
well
true.
spent.
Right there. Administration was second, followed by, let's see, our capital outline discretionary line item in code enforcement and planning and zoning.
Didn't have to put that kind of a pie chart.
So our next topic is our special revenue and enterprise funds. And just to remind you how these funds are how they're funded and kind of how they work. Our special highway fund is funded primarily through the gas tax and any sort of transfers that we may transfer into that. Debt service is funded through our mill levy, any new issuances and transfers in. Library is strictly mill levy. Special parks and recreation is a transfer in 2025, they'll start earning some interest now. Tourism is transient guest tax, and then the CID for Tanganyika is funded through a special sales tax. Our enterprise funds are funded through sales of services, so you can see we obviously have water, wastewater, and we started our new stormwater utility in Q3 of 2024. We didn't have a whole lot of activity in that fund in 2020, in third quarter, but you'll see that it's starting to pick up some steam. So again, here, same story. Blue is current year, green is last year at the same time, and then there's our year-over-year change. So you can see we did well in all of our revenue sources. We predicted what we were going to. We weren't really under budget in any of those. One of the things I wanted to show you in our special parks fund, you can see a $3,500 revenue right there in Q4. That is in regards to our new impact fees that we put in place on building permits. So a portion of those go into that fund to help service our parks and services. Water utility, we were up, let's see here, I have our tax thing, 12.92% from last year. That incorporates our rate increases that we all saw. Wastewater utility, we were up about 6.39% from last year. And there at the very bottom, you can see how our stormwater utility is starting to pick up some speed. So Q3, we had $800 worth of revenue, but in Q4, we had about $34,000. In 2025, we are planning to, use some of that revenue, and we have about an $80,000 budget authority. We don't plan to spend all that, but we'll start working on some stormwater projects with that fund that's come in. The miscellaneous income, I should note here that you'll see primarily it is related to the interest income, new connection fees, penalties, and sales tax collections. Any questions so far? All right, so here are our expenses. And again, we stayed within our budget authority in each one of those funds. Got kind of close in some of them, but other than that, that's perfectly fine. We were still able to make all the transfers that we needed to make at year end, not needing to make any adjustments. So our water fund and our sewer fund transfer into our debt service fund to help pay our debt that we have on about 3 bonds that we have. And then some of those others, the water transfers into the water reserves to hopefully start building up balances, same with sewer. And then they also go to capital improvement and equipment reserves. So everything looks really steady there. So if we start talking about our enterprise fund performance, this is kind of important, and this is kind of what we look at when we look at our rates. This is a very, very high level of what we would do if we were doing our rate study. But this is just kind of shows us, we want to look at our net income for our water and our sewer utility, and we also want to look at our net income as a percentage of operating revenue. So first of all, if we look at our net income in the water fund, we're at 61.82%. That is excellent. So that means all the money we bring in, we subtract our operating expenses, we have plenty to operate. Anything under 80% is excellent. So that shows that our rates are set good to maintain basic operations. However, we want to look at the next level, our net income as a percentage of operating revenue. We have to subtract out from that net income the capital improvement costs that we've incurred and any transfers out. So when we get to that point, we get down to a 0.63%. We really need to see that number closer to about 5 or 6%. So it's showing that we're just kind of treading water. We're not truly underwater, but we're just barely treading water.
Treading water on the waterfront.
We're treading water on the waterfront. Sewer utility fund operating ratio looks really well. Again, we want that number to be under at least 80% or under, and so you're showing that your operations are bringing in enough to you're bringing enough sales to cover your operations. However, we start transferring out our capital improvement, or we start paying for capital improvements, transferring out to other funds, we start going negative. So that shows that we're eating up fund balance in the sewer utility fund, get a negative 12.26. So that's something that tells me we probably ought to look at that, make sure that's not a trend that just keeps going. I feel like it's okay to have a negative or be on the edge if you're investing back into your utility somewhat as well. So those are capital improvements, bond payments, things that are helping the utility last longer. So any questions on that? All right, so now let's talk about our capital improvement and reserve funds. So at Q4 2024, it shows that we had about 23 million sitting in our capital improvement and project funds. That's quite a substantial jump from Q3. That is because we had two temp notes that came in for special projects that totaled about, I don't know, about $12 million that got dumped into there. But if you recall, last time we met and we talked about this, I was kind of concerned about the true balance to the city in that fund. So we spent some time, and I have to thank my staff for helping me put this stuff together. We broke out the capital improvement fund to show exactly what portion of that 23 million is the city's money. So out of that, you can see about 4.06% of that 23 million is allocated to the city. The rest of it is our temp note projects that we had for development. So that shows where we are as of 12/31. Every single temp note project we have, their balance in those funds, and it's all held within the capital improvement fund, or I'm starting to break them out as they come in and they're newer. So we won't have that problem, but right now it's kind of intermingled, and it's just a county nightmare if we were to separate out all of those. So we're keeping it on paper, but that's where we are today. Our reserve fund balances for equipment reserves, water utility, and wastewater, you can see there. Some have gone up, some have gone down. We've spent some money in these funds this year. But the fourth quarter numbers here do represent our transfers into that account. So the next slide shows what we spent in the equipment reserves and just kind of where it went. You can see the police department spent these items, about $300,000, a little over $300,000. Street operations, $96,000. So those are where the funds went in the reserve funds. Treasury update. Interest earnings look really good this year. We hope that they stay that way. I actually booked interest today for January, and it's down, so just about $10,000, I want to say, from normal. So we kind of need to be thinking about that. We may not be as flush with interest income as we'd like to be, but this is where we were at the end of the year, and where we held cash and the respective rates. Most of those CDs are coming due. Looks like April's our first one, so we'll be definitely in the market shopping for best interest rates on new investments. And as you can see down there, we had about a little over $1 million in interest. And that's just a pretty chart that shows all that together. So we're about to wrap up. This will be the fourth quarter treasurer's report that we'll publish into the newspaper. Nothing out of the ordinary here. It includes your beginning balances of the third quarter, flushes it through to fourth quarter. I don't know if anybody has any questions with this. It's pretty basic. I think you've seen this many, many times. This report is just a little bit different than the past one. I was asked to show some change in fund balance last time, so that's why this is on here. So the beginning column is where we started the year with cash balances in each of those funds. The middle column there shows the ending balances and then our change. So from year over year, we ended up with about $9 million more in the bank than we did at the beginning of the year. But remember, we had temp note money coming in and stuff, so not all of that $9 million would be ours. Percent change per fund, you can see all those items as well. So with that being said, this is kind of the projects the finance team's working on. The auditors will be here next Wednesday. They'll be doing the annual audit. We are all hard working on this 10-year capital improvement plan. We're working on things for that. 2026 budget prep is in the back of my mind. I know it needs to get going, and we're going to get going on it, but that's coming. We have also been researching financial software. We've had a lot of issues with our current product. It just doesn't it just doesn't hold up. So I've been having lots and lots of meetings with Tyler Tech and Oracle and the Clarion and bringing staff in, getting lots of input and feedback on the different products that are available. And at some point, we may bring something to you that pleads the case. And then finally, a very big job we need to do is update our water rate study. And we'll be planning to do that and present that at the ad hoc water committee meeting in March. So, with that being said, that's all I have.
Questions? I just have a couple comments. I think the work you've done since you've been here has put us in a position where it's demonstrated within this report that we have for us as council members, we have a better understanding of where the details are behind all these numbers. Breaking out the developments and all the temp notes and things to actually know exactly how much money we have in the capital expenditure account is valuable to us, because now it's out in the open. And I think it's good for the public to see this. There's a lot of data in here. There's a lot of regulations as it relates to reserves and the funding balances that we have to maintain in order to keep our bond rating. And I just want to thank you for the work you've done to get us to this point, and it's appreciated. And hopefully, I don't know if there's anybody out here geeks out on this stuff like I do, but it's important to be able to look at numbers. Numbers tell stories. There's levels and trends in these things, and we've got some trends that now we can monitor, because we've got the numbers broken out to a level of detail where we can actually do some really good trend analysis and follow things. So thank you for all that work. Appreciate it. We'll move on unless anybody else wants to chime in. All right, thanks, Brooke. Appreciate it. All right. I-2, corporate bounty resolution. Can you just maybe draw a map for us, the meets and bounds and where all the lines are? Please don't read that. It's like, what, 11 pages?
Oh, it'll be a long one. Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is I-2, consideration of a resolution reestablishing the boundary of Goddard city limits. And so pursuant to KSA 12517, which states in any year in which any territory has been added to or excluded from any city, the governing body such city shall declare by resolution the entire boundary of the city. And so the city engineer has provided this resolution, which includes all property added to the Goddard city limits within the last year and the current year to date. So we added a couple extra stuff. For example, the land that we annexed in the northeast corner of 183rd Maple, that was included in this one. And then all the streets that were foisted on us by the county, those were included as well. And the one for 167. And then any annexations that happened also in 2024 and 2023, anything that may have been excluded, we wanted to make sure we had that included as well. City is now around 5.83 square miles, or about 3,700 acres. The city engineer has completed the corporate limit resolution and is available for questions. And this is what we look like now. These are all of the arterial roads and then also the major corridor that cuts us through the middle. Financially, none. This is a statutory requirement. Legal counsel can provide comments if necessary. It is recommended City Council adopt the resolution establishing the new corporate city limits with a voice vote. But if you guys have any questions about that?
Kind of an annual thing we do, right?
As long as we annex, or de-annex, yeah.
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution establishing the new corporate city limits.
I second.
Brent's made the motion, Krista seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Brian Schreck, Assistant City Administrator.
Good evening.
Time for the big show.
That's great. All right. We made it with you.
That's right. Ring the bell.
That's why everyone came out. All right. Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. Before I begin, just wanted to provide a little bit of brief background just to remind everyone of how we got to where we are this evening. As set forth in the 2024 goals that were adopted by City Council and put together by council and staff, looking at moving the city to a single hauler system was one of the goals set forth in 2024. And so in August, we started that process in earnest, and working with our legal counsel, put together the timeline to make sure that we were following all of the state statutes that are in place for a city to move from just a regular open market system where anyone can register with the city to haul trash, solid waste, and recycling services to a single hauler system. And so again, this is just us acting on a 2024 goal, and where we are tonight is, as provided by background, we've gone through a couple of public hearings. The public notices have been put in the paper. In November, we adopted the resolution of intent, or the ROI, that allowed us to get to where we are tonight. The next step, where we are this evening, is to gather input from the existing haulers. This is commonly referred to in the state statutes as a planning session. So we're treating this as a public comment period where we will engage and public haulers. There are currently 4 registered public haulers working in the city of Goddard. And so personal invitations were mailed to those 4 haulers, inviting them to this meeting to provide public comments, as well as this notice was put in the newspaper and published on the city's website and social media to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to comment on where we are at this point. So again, with adopting the resolution of intent, where we are right now is in the process of adopting what's called an organized solid waste and recycling plan, as well as putting together an RFP. So once we've heard from everyone this evening, that feedback will be incorporated into the plan, incorporated into the RFP. The next step will be for City Council during the March 17th City Council meeting to review that finalized RFP, again, taking the feedback that we received this evening, and adopting and approving that RFP, which will allow the city to solicit and collect bids from potential haulers with a submission due date. That due date is May 1st of 2025. And then during the May 19th, 2025 City Council meeting, what will happen is there will be a final public hearing on the solid waste and recycling plan, and if the city so chooses, we'll adopt an ordinance establishing that plan, adopting that plan, and then we will also review the bids that we received through the RFP process, review the bids that were received by that May 1st deadline, and then again, if City Council so chooses, would be establish that ordinance, adopt that ordinance, and then award the RFP. The selected hauler would be authorized to start service, and this is again going back to state statutes. There have to be at least 18 months between adoption and when they can start service. So that earliest that they could start would be November 19th of 2026. Again, this is a timeline that was put together by City's legal counsel. This timeline goes through every step of this process. This is a very lengthy process, and we've had multiple conversations as staff and council on potentially moving to the single hauler system. And so where we are tonight is again in that planning session, providing opportunity for the existing haulers and haulers in general, as well as the general public to provide comments. Again, financials, there'll be a small publication cost associated with the ordinance. Legal is approved to form. The recommendation tonight, of course, there is no formal action tonight. We are not adopting anything tonight. There are no votes. This is just to allow for a public comment period to solicit feedback from the existing haulers and anyone else in the audience that would like to supply feedback, for that to be received by you as the council and by city staff, and for us to incorporate that again into the plan and the RFP. I'll stand for any questions, but before doing so, I would just like to quickly address questions that were already received this evening, and I'm more than happy to answer questions after this meeting. You can drop by City Hall, send an email, give me a phone call. More than happy to do that as we are still finalizing the plan and the RFP. So to Mr. Hilliard's points, to his questions, bin size. Right now in the RFP we're looking at potentially 2 sizes, 65 and 95. Those are pretty standard, and we would ask bidders to submit proposals, costs for each of those size bins. The cost, again, that's going to be received through the RFP process, so those bids would be, again, received by May 1st, opened by city staff in an open meeting, and then presented on May 19th. Do you have to use, the next question was, do you have to use provider for dumpsters? This would be something that would be open for negotiation, so I think this would be a special project. So I think in the RFP we can definitely include what would you charge a resident if they wanted to rent a dumpster, or if a business wanted to rent a dumpster. That could definitely be written to the RFP. All the city covered, so this service and the potential ordinance only applies to everyone living within the corporate boundary, within the city limits of Goddard. So that answers that question. Again, when we want to start, earliest would be November of 2026. Customer service. So how we're writing this is, again, being cognizant of staff limitations at this time and wanting to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. The way we're writing this RFP is that the selected contractor, should we move to a single hauler system, would be in charge of billing as well as customer service. Now, that's not to say if someone has a complaint, they can absolutely call City Hall and we will pass along that complaint, that issue. If someone's service gets missed, we can certainly pass that along to the selected hauler. But at this time, billing and general customer service would go directly to the selected contractor, not the city. But again, we're more than happy to answer any questions here at City Hall and answer questions over the phone, email, or someone dropping by. So we'd be more than happy to pass that along to the selected contractor. Multiple bins, again, this would be something that's negotiated between each resident, each user, and the selected contractor themselves. But again, the bids will provide us information on what that cost will be for both solid waste and recycling services. In answering Mr. Hornberger's questions, why are we doing this? Again, there are multiple, and we've discussed this before as well, there are multiple reasons why it's beneficial for the city to look at and potentially move to a single hauler system. For example, there are many cities, actually in Sedgwick County, we are a rare breed in the fact that most cities in Sedgwick County and throughout the country do have contracts with either a single hauler system, or in some cases in larger cities, they take care of this service themselves as a utility, like water or stormwater or sewer. So this is something that is very common in our region and throughout the country. This will, moving to a single hauler system does decrease the truck traffic on local streets, so instead of having, like we have now with 4 haulers taking their trucks throughout the streets on a regular basis, we would move to a single hauler, which would reduce the overall number of routes. This will save money on street maintenance, as there will be fewer heavy trucks on local streets. This will also reduce noise and pollution because, again, we're reducing the number of trucks that are operating on city streets. These are just a few of the reasons why other communities are doing this. And again, I would note that this is a competitive process. We are honoring the free market system and allowing the free market to play out itself and letting these companies compete with each other on providing the best service at the best quality rate to our residents. So with that, I'll answer any questions. But again, there is no formal action required tonight. The next step is to solicit feedback tonight, and then during the March 17th meeting, we'll review and approve the RFP. That will allow city staff to publish the RFP, collect bids, which would then be reviewed during the May 19th City Council meeting.
Any questions from the bench? Any comments? Looks like we're good.
Mayor, could I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I'm guessing that this question might be asked, and because we're not going to be answering questions during the public comment period, I'm going to maybe answer it now. We didn't really discuss whether...
Would you mind getting on a mic?
Sure. We won't get one wired down here one day. So we haven't 100% determined whether or not this would include both residential and commercial. One of the things Ryan and I were discussing in the previous days was if we were to do this for commercial also, you know, there's so many different bin sizes, how would we go about that? And our initial determination would be that we would just leave it open-ended to the companies. They could say what commercial bins they have and what they would charge. That way we're not kind of pigeonholing them into 2 or 3 different sizes. So we will have a lot of opportunity to put whatever details or requirements in an RFP that we would like. So when we come to you guys here in a few weeks, you know, we'll probably have some options in there for you as far as is there 2 bin sizes for residential? Do we want to do commercial as well? You know, we have the opportunity to choose what we would like to include in there. I'm anticipating we'll get some questions tonight. We're going to write all those down and get all the answers that we can. And I think it's very important to note that this is the information gathering stage. So we may not have an answer for every question because we ourselves haven't quite determined at the full level what we want to include in our, you know, contract requirements, our proposal that we're going to be advertising. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What about remodelers that's come to our town? They ever use the same craft service?
Again, that would be commercial, like Craig mentioned, so that'll be something that we'll determine on if this service is going to be strictly limited towards residential, or if there is going to be a commercial option. Now, certainly with certain projects like that, there might be special exemptions to where if there's a service that they already have or a contract negotiated with a solid waste hauler, we might make exceptions for that. So again, that's a great question that we can include in the RFP itself, is what would the hauler that's submitting a bid, what would they offer in terms of service for commercial users?
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'll just make a quick comment. Ask that you try to stay on topic. We're not going to run the bell at 3 minutes, but be respectful of everybody else's time. So with that, this is pretty informal. We're going to listen. So we're not going to enter big dialogue. So, and like Brian and Craig indicated, the questions that you have, probably no answers tonight, but we're going to be writing down the questions and working to incorporate those things in the process going forward.
I think, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, keep in mind too, we're just exploring this possibility. This isn't something that's like set in stone, right? I think a lot of people get that impression that we're moving full train ahead and this is what we're going to do. That's not the case. You know, but my mind's eye is that, you know, I know some people that have some current increases that happen. You know, I think mine's gone up a little bit as well. But some of us have good rates, some of us have higher rates, right? So I don't think there's any problem trying to figure out what that may end up being. And so if it's a significant savings over there, I think it'd be really rewarding. But if it doesn't really benefit us, then we're gonna drop it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would just echo Councilman Collins. This isn't a set in stone thing by any means. My wife and I's trash just went up by $30 last month. That's ridiculous. So I totally understand, like, the right to have your own choice. I'm all for that. But I think it'd be foolish to make an uninformed decision and not at least look, because y'all are going to be real happy if we come back with $10 every quarter or something. So I'm just saying, it would be foolish not to look. So
don't have pressure on anyone that's here. Companies.
That was Councilman Fish that stated that $10.
Go ahead and open it up.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public comment period here.
Good evening, Randy Bernard, 127 North Cedar. I've been observing this process that we've been going under now for, what, 5-6 months? And as part of another project that I'm involved in, we've had a lot of informal discussions about that topic. And I was absolutely shocked to hear the disparity of the difference in what people just within a mile of here are paying for solid waste and trash service. We chose the hauler that we used because they provided services that we wanted that others didn't. Specifically, we wanted to have recycling, and a couple of the ones that said no, we don't recycle, it's just everything. But when I heard the difference in what we were paying, which is a really high rate compared to what some other people in the same general area are paying, I was flabbergasted. So if there is an economy of scale, and that we can get a more unified service where it's equitable for everybody and we get good service that's reliable, I think it's a great idea. But it has to be it has to have a reasonable cost and reasonable service. That's my thought.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
Sorry, I can't write and talk.
Hello, I'm Mark Rakulia. I'm with Air Capital Waste. My wife and I are the owners. About 5.5 years ago, we decided to get back into trash. We had been out for a length of time. It was kind of a decision for us because of family, and it was a work ethic thing. It was, it's easy to tell kids about work ethic, but it's hard for them to understand it unless they see it. And so I was semi-retired, got back into trash, bought Air Capital Waste and WasteLink, merged them together, and that time we were about 20,000 customers. Since that time, several haulers have decided to hang up the shoes and retire, and we've grown. We're at about 53,000 customers now. We're the largest independent hauler in the area. We do pick up here. We would be opposed to this process. If you do franchise, it's not something that we could bid. We have the ability to haul, but we don't have the ability to guarantee what our waste disposal fees will be. The process itself, there's an 18-month waiting period from when you request a bid. So we have to give you a bid price and wait 18 months before that contract will even start. You're going to ask for probably a 5-year contract. 5, 7 is what these usually go. So for 6, 8 years, I've got to know what my expenses would be in order to haul your trash. Unfortunately, in the history in Wichita, the county decided to get out of the landfill business. They put themselves in it and had a landfill. They didn't, for some reason, follow through with their plan to open Furley, and so suddenly there was a vacuum with no landfill. The largest company in town decided to fill that, and that's good for them. They opened up a landfill and a transfer station. At that time, we had 2 transfer stations. So there was a little bit of competition, but still most of the trash all went to Waste Connections. Since that time, the South Transfer Station in Wichita has closed down. So there's only one transfer station in Wichita. That's Waste Connections. So the trash, if we were to get this contract, the closest place to take it is Waste Connections Transfer Station. If we didn't take it there, we've got to haul it to El Dorado, to the Butler County landfill. And it's not feasible. It's not a situation where we can be competitive, competing against the person who has the transfer station and the landfill. But right now we compete because we do drive farther. Our guys try to work harder, try to do a better job. We try to keep our prices consistent and low. So we're trying to compete on those things, but we can't compete in a situation like this where we would have to rely on our competition for our disposal. So we would not bid the contract. I know there's one other independent. I've had conversations with him. He is a couple trucks. He would be in the same situation as far as being able to bid it. As far as the benefits of it, I understand what state managers are presenting to you. There are some unintended consequences. If I had this contract, I would bring the biggest trucks that we had. We bring our residential front loaders in, Corrado cans. They're the most productive. They're also the heaviest. So the Allen & Sons, who's not here, he's running a single axle truck up and down your streets. He's under 20,000 pounds. My Corrado cans, the big trucks, are 40,000 pounds empty. And so the unintended consequences of franchising is that we bring in bigger trucks because we've got every house we can pick up more quicker. So for productivity, we're going to run heavier trucks, and they're going to be heavier empty and loaded. And then another unintended consequences is the surrounding areas. If you would decide to continue with this, we would pull out of the area. We would pull out of the counties around Goddard also. It wouldn't be cost effective for us to continue to come out here and handle the surrounding areas. Right now in the county, our rate is about half what all the competitors are. So an unintended consequences is that people around Goddard would have a substantial increase if you did this. Other consequences, long-term, if you know, God forbid, Wichita would franchise, that puts us in a pretty rough situation. Right now, with Waste Connections having a transfer station and landfill, it's very difficult for someone to come in and on a citywide contract be competitive with them. So it could come to a situation where we only have one hauler that would be bidding the city contracts in the Wichita area. Anybody from out of town who's going to want to come here, the first question is, I can pick the trash up, where am I going to take it? And unfortunately, there's not a lot of options. El Dorado's the best option, and it's hard to be competitive when you've got to take it up there versus them being right in the middle of town. A little nervous, I'm forgetting a lot of stuff. That was mainly what I had to say, but we would have to pull out. The final thing on the unintended consequences is that 18-month period. We buy a couple of thousand trash carts every year. It wouldn't make sense for me to continue to buy new trash carts if you guys were going to franchise. So I would immediately have to start the process of pulling my carts out of Goddard, use them in somewhere else in the market. So you get that interim place where someone's going to have to provide trash service for the people as we vacate the market, the people who don't get the contract. So if you have any questions for me, welcome to ask.
Do you know approximately how many people use service in Goddard right now?
I didn't bring that. I think it's around 400 or 500. We do recycling and trash.
Thank you for that feedback. It's insightful. I mean, that's why we do this, so it's valuable.
I have a question for you. You said your trucks were 40,000 pounds?
No. We're not gonna, this is a public comment. We're not gonna have a discussion. We'll be here till midnight or tomorrow morning. I know you do. I know you just want.
What's your total weight on a long
Sir,
truck?
listen to the mayor.
Please.
Have a little dignity for how this needs to function, okay? Thank you.
You can catch him after the meeting. He'll talk with you. I'm just trying to keep this thing going in a positive way. So, thanks. Next.
My name's Ward Billiard. After listening to the guy that does trash business and trash trucks, he pointed out an extremely good point. We were told that the pollution and the wear and tear on the Goddard streets, and like he said, that whoever gets this contract is going to bring the biggest truck they've got, and that's going to do double damage to the Goddard streets. So, other have single axle trash trucks, which are a lot lighter. I understand, well, we got all these trash trucks coming through town. But like I said, whoever gets the contract, like you just said, they're going to bring in the biggest trash truck they got, which is 3 times the size of a single axle. Okay, my point here is if I'm very happy with my trash service. If I can put everything that I put in my trash and it gets hauled away at a lower rate, and I don't get any complaints from my trash service that you can't put this in your trash can, you can't put that in your trash can, I'd be for the lower rate. But there's no way they're going to be able to take the trash that I put out on the street at the lower rate. Like I said, I'm very happy with my trash service. It might cost a little, but he dumps it, I got no problems. I'm just kind of afraid to see it scares me to see what kind of trash service I'm going to get for $11. there's no way he can compete with that with the trash. My trash bins are full. And I'd like them to stay empty when I put them on the street. I don't got no phone calls from my trash service. You can't put that in your trash can. You can't put this in your trash can. I put tree limbs in my trash can. I got no complaints. But I know other towns have single haulers, and they can only put so much in their trash can. It's gonna cause an inconvenience for me. It's gonna cause an inconvenience for the city of Goddard, because they're gonna be bringing these huge trash trucks in town versus a single axle trash truck like he just described. And we're talking wear and tear on the Goddard streets. So let's really think this out. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Herschel West. Ben Tucker. We're with Waste Connections. And what we'd like to say is we're going to support the city on whatever they decide. We provide, Craig talked about, we service a few other cities in the city of Seton County. So we do provide franchise service for those cities. We currently have the Corrado trucks in the city of Goddard right now. So we wouldn't bring any heavier truck to do the same limit that we're using that.
You have any questions? I know you mentioned Waste Connections, but he's not wrong. I mean, we do own the train station and the landfill. As far as the business goes, as it runs, the franchise portion of that is historically how most cities run it. It's not about taking the little guys out. But from a cost structure for us to run through it, franchise cost allows us to go cheaper that route, and it's usually easy for the customers. You touched on the city roads, having trucks out there, how many you have, how often. There's an aesthetic part, all your cans match. So Herschel's main point, though, whichever way the city goes, we're going to support it. We are locals, we live in Goddard, so we support it either way. You mentioned our name 3 times, so come up here and say hi.
One thing I have heard, every time we do something like this, the city's always telling me, I wish we would have done it years ago. One thing I always hear. Yeah. 6 weeks to speak.
Very good.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Look at these, not 201 North Pine, do I need to sign again?
You can't if you want to.
At least your name's not super long.
More difficult to spell, right?
Right.
I wasn't going to say anything because I've already spoken previous meetings and I spoke already tonight, but first thing I want to say, I am very happy with the service that I have, and it happens to be Air Capital. One of the services they offer me is if I have a week, or any week, that I have an excess of trash. Maybe I did my spring cleaning and I got extra trash. I'm allowed to put extra bags outside my trash bin and they will pick them up to a certain number. Now you might think 2 or 3. No. I can put up with my bin 10 extra bags.
Where do you live on haul some stuff to your house?
So I am very appreciative, and I've got a neighbor who has 3 children, and when all 3 of them are still in diapers, they have a lot of trash. And they had theirs around, and they also get Air Capital. So I just want to say that. But if I heard correctly, Waste Connections just told us that they're using the big, heavy trucks on our streets right now. Maybe one of the options would be to tell the waste companies that you cannot bring in those large, heavy trucks into our community, that you do need to bring the smaller trucks, less weight, on our roads. Because they're already doing the damage apparently. And they don't have to. But they choose to bring in those heavier trucks on our roads. And that's one of our concerns, is that our roads are taking a beating that they we want to alleviate. Well, if we reduce the weight of their trucks down to the other trucks, then we have less wear and tear on our roads. So, just looking at a different option. Thank you.
Well, to be fair, the roads that we're putting in now are top notch. Extra.
Hey everybody, my name is Jenny Ely and I live at 1809 North McRae in the Spring Hill Edition. We love our community, we love our neighborhood, and we have an HOA rate in our neighborhood, and so for the past several years we've gotten a dumpster from Waste Connections. So I don't have any complaints with our service, but what I do appreciate is the fact that I can choose. If I've had an issue with my bill rate, I can chat on the internet while I'm at work. You know, killing two birds with one stone, as many moms and adults do. I can call and talk to a representative fairly quickly, and I can choose if I want to end my service through them, or if I want to get rid of recycling, I can factor that in too. The point is that in the United States, we're a free market society. That is one of our rights, and not to have monopolies. And I understand the bid process would allow the trash companies to compete for the right to have this contract in Goddard, but we'd be locked into that for 5 to 7 years. And so I just wanted to speak to the fact that even if I am paying a little bit more, and that may not be everybody's opinion, but it is mine, I would rather pay for something I choose versus getting something cheap that I don't want. That's all.
Thank you.
Perfect segue. Okay, my name is Jeanette Gunnels and I live at 206 Stewart Drive. As our elected officials, you are the ambassadors of the residents of Goddard. And currently you are looking at having all of the residents use the same trash hauler. In the beginning, God created Adam and Eve and put them in the Garden of Eden and gave them the choice to eat from any tree in the garden except the tree of knowledge. Right now, I have the choice of where I want to purchase a cup of coffee, which hair salon I choose to go to, which phone carrier I choose to have, which TV streaming services I choose to purchase, where I choose to buy groceries, where I choose to buy gas, which doctor and health services I choose to use, and most importantly, which house of worship I choose to attend for my choice of religious beliefs. And I am sure that there are many choices that I have left out. The U.S. Constitution starts with the words, "We the people." Well, I am the people, and these are the people. These are the peoples that you are the ambassadors for. I think I heard ambassador. Since this is a decision that takes away our freedom of choice and will impact us financially, the government needs to stay out of the citizens' pockets unless there's a voter approval first. Liberty is threatened when the government is unchecked. No man is free who is not master of himself. My freedom of choice comes from God, not man, and I would like to continue to keep my freedom of choice, including which trash service that I choose to use. Thank you.
I just want to say, competition always promotes the best price for customers.
Sir, feel free to step up to the mic so people at home can hear you.
All I got to say.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Lance. I was just concerned what Ward was concerned about the weight of the trucks on the street.
You know how the process works, though.
Next matter.
Randy Glazy, I live at 2234 East Ridge Court in St. Andrews. And that's a hard act to follow. I've heard some things from some of the city representatives tonight that are a little bit disturbing. I've heard some things from the citizens that I really appreciate. I would like to say that I'm proud of the city council for the vote they took earlier, for everybody expressing their own opinion, and I'm glad you all feel safe doing that. I agreed with the way the vote went, but if I hadn't, I'd still be proud that you all voted. I hope you do the same thing with this. Things that I've heard that I can't verify. I have a hard time on the website trying to find out the details about this whole trash thing. So some questions I have, some things that I've heard. I heard tonight that you're honoring the free market system. No, you're not. Free market system means I go and I find the people that I want to work with and I deal with them. When the city's taking bids and telling us who we're going to use for trash service, even if you're taking bids, it's not the free market. That's the government sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. I've heard, and I'm not accusing anybody, I've heard that the city administrator has said that some need to pay more for the good of all. I just have a real hard time with that statement. If it was said, I hope it's retracted. I've heard that you're going to add this trash, however you collect the money that we're going to pay the city, and it's going to be added to our water bill. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'd like to make sure that that's put out there, who's going to collect, who we're going to pay, how that's going to be done. I'm hoping there's no kickbacks to City Hall in this. I hope y'all are above reproach on that, and that you're not negotiating this and then you're going to add $2 or $3 to everybody's bill and put it in the city coffers. If that's the case, I'll be back fighting about that later. I don't care what other cities do. I don't care that we're kind of on the outer skirts of that. I'd rather be a one-off than following the lemons jumping off the cliff. So I don't give a what any other city's doing. I don't care if the cans match. I mean, they're put out. I live in an HOA, which is a whole other thing. I love my wife, but she made me move out of the country.
Just so you know, this is on the recording. And my wife kind of goes back and checks on me too.
Yeah, hopefully she won't find out we're watching. I love her to death. I'll do anything she wants, but living in an HOA. This process only allows for competition from some of the contractors, as you've heard tonight. Thank you for coming from Air Capital, and there was a lot of good information that he said. I hope you consider everything that he said. I've heard a lot of people saying they're happy with their trash service and that they want to be able to make their own decisions, and that's what America is all about, and I hope you keep that in mind. To the man that mentioned the recycling, I followed these recycle trucks all the way till they dumped, and they dumped the damn recycling in the same place that they dumped the trash. It's all a crock of crap. Don't take my word for it, go out and follow them. It took me 6 hours on 3 different occasions, but I followed them and I watched them dump the recycling in the same place they dumped the trash. My main reason to be here tonight, I don't pay for trash service. I have a commercial trash at work that I pay for. So I take my trash once a week, I put it in my own dumpster, and I don't want to pay for trash service now. I never have in my life, I don't want to do it now. And that's part of what this does, is it's unfair to those of us that have other arrangements and other accommodations. And my last comment is the city just has no business getting into this and negotiating this. I don't think that you've heard from enough people in the community that said, we want you to do this. Put it up for a vote. I'll guarantee you'll get shot down. So now, if you want to make me really proud, why don't you make a motion to quash this and let's get it done, quash tonight. Thank you.
My name is Teresa Soria, and I live at 100 North Pine here in Goddard, just down the street. And I'm blessed to live on a dead-end street. But on that dead-end street, all the way down, we have one trash service. Same line. It's Allen and Sons. I've had them for over 25 years. I brought them with me when I moved to Wichita. I came out here to live a small town life. Surprise, jerk was on me. Anyway, I just want to reiterate just about everything I've heard tonight. The freedom to choose, the freedom to make the decision for me, my loyalty to my trash company, the fact that I can pick up the phone and tell them, hey, I've got a mattress out here. I need a haul up. I'm by myself. I'm a senior citizen. I live by myself. And they say, hey, for 20 bucks, I'll come pick that up. Or, like the other, my neighbor down the street said, I haven't, but I can put up to 6 bags out with my trash and I'll pick it up. In fact, you know what? This last winter when we had that ice storm, they brought my trash back up to my garage for me. That's the kind of service you get with these small companies. And the one thing I wanted to point out that hadn't been said tonight is my heart breaks for the small guy. You know, big box stores, all these big companies, they buy out all the little guys, just trying to make a living day to day. We've got a gentleman here tonight that said he can't even be involved in the process because he just can't do it. And that's exactly where my trash company will be. They won't be able to do it. When I call up, you know, the wife answers the phone, she takes my payment. I don't pay much. They went up $5 and I still probably have one of the lowest trash bills here in town. And that's just all I wanted to say. I think the day of the small businessman and the old-fashioned way of earning a living is almost extinct. And I just would really hate to put the family at Allen and Sons out of business, at least in the city of Goddard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Jody Renard and I live at 127 North Cedar Street, right across the alley from here. I just wanted to say, kind of dovetailing with all my friends. When I first saw the notice that you were going to have this meeting tonight, and the invitation for the haulers to come, I forwarded it to Allen and Sons to make sure they had seen it. And they said, well, yeah, we've seen it, but we can't do it. We don't have the manpower, we don't have the trucks, we just can't do it. And it broke my heart a little bit, because they are the nicest, friendliest people. They go above and beyond for senior citizens, of which I am one. I know I look younger than that, but I am one. When I broke my leg and I couldn't get down to the driveway, they helped facilitate that for Randy. And any request I make for extra trash or whatever, they say, no problem. Or I'll call them and say, hey, I don't have any recycling. And then they say, no problems, we'll tell Sierra not to come. And I know this gentleman, and I don't doubt him, he probably did follow that truck. And he probably did see all the recycling get dumped with the regular. But I know for a fact that Allen and Sons, their trash truck picks up the trash, their recycle trailer and pickup truck, navigated by a little girl no bigger than a minute, picks up the recycling, and she takes it to the city recycling center that Randy actually has taken a tour of. So that's where our recycling goes. Thanks.
Thank you, Jody.
Forgive me, I'm a southpaw.
You're in good company.
I'm Will Mayfield, live at 917 North St. Andrew Avenue. I used to live in Valley Center, when they switched to a single source. You notice I don't live there anymore. I don't need government telling me who I should use, what I should use, and whether or not I should recycle. And to reiterate on his point, you're going to negotiate a good contract once. All the small businesses are going to go out of business. You're going to be left with one carrier, and he's going to set the rate no matter what he wants. So, I mean, you're going to get a good rate once, but that's it. As soon as you put all these smaller guys out of business, you're done. So, that's just my point.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I say something?
Let's see if there's anyone else. And there's a
I think you say this
Mike Whitaker, 609 North Clear Lane in Spring Hill. I just want to reiterate also, I agree that losing the ability for any small business to operate in this climate is going to be tough. I mean, we want Goddard to live another 100 years. We're going to be swallowed by Wichita, guaranteed. We're going to be the East Borough. That's how it's going to be. And the little fish is going to get swallowed. And so if Goddard really wants to put a foot down and really make it something that people want to come here, because we are building like crazy and we want them to stay here, then we need to make good choices and sound choices. Because once you make an ordinance, there's no way going back. Okay? You can try to vote it, that's not going to happen. Okay? So let the little guy fight. That's all I ask.
Okay. Anyone else before I go to Mr. Collins over
Let's set a standard for Goddard. Goddard's a unique town. We welcome everyone in this town. Small business, let's get, like everybody has said, let's make it a unique town, not like the other 8 out there that's going to single haulers. We're unique. We brought in the jam concert here. Everybody thought that was something else. Let's do single haulers out the door, and let's bring a little man into Goddard, just like we've got it now. We've got a lot of people happy with their trash service. Let's make it a unique. Let's set the standards. Let's be the leaders and not the followers. So.
Are you?
Can I just make one statement?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was told by somebody in this room that the worst thing for the streets in Goddard are the school buses. And you guys are taking on the trash haulers, so what are you going to do about the school buses? If you really want to improve the roads?
It's only the yellow ones.
Who doesn't want a yellow school bus?
With that, Aubrey, unless there's anyone else.
Maybe we might close the public comment.
We'll technically close the public comments and move to the bench for some discussion.
Yeah, this is starting to feel like a COVID shot to me. You know what I mean? We're all citizens here too. We're all your neighbors. And this was insightful, you know, and this is a free market. Just saying that right there, I want to make a motion that we kill this.
I second.
Any further discussion?
I've been saying we're kicking a rock down the road for the last 6 months, so I third.
We have a motion.
I forward.
In a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. I just want to thank everyone for their candor for being willing to listen to us and appreciate the input. We are making every effort to try to do things the right way, to do the right things, and
I kept waiting for somebody to come up here and say, man, this is a great idea.